On the day of the college entrance exam, my sister, who had always been known for her skillful hands and delicate touch, handed out a heart-shaped sandwich to everyone at school for breakfast. She stuck a heart-shaped note on the wrapper. This was made by me, the very skillful and dexterous me, with my own hands. After eating it, I guarantee you'll get a perfect score. Unexpectedly, the meat in the sandwich was moldy, causing a large number of students at the school to suffer diarrhea, and they were sent to the hospital in the middle of the exam. To avoid the public abuse and criticism, she deliberately started crying and posted a video first. "It's all my fault. If I hadn't been lazy and let my younger sister prepare the meat, my classmates wouldn't have given up the college entrance exam. I knew all along that my sister was jealous of how skillful I am with my hands, but I never expected her to deliberately use moldy meat. She's so evil." The frustrated examinees locked me in a cage and kept stuffing moldy meat into me until I was bloated to death. I opened my eyes in hatred and found myself back on the day my sister brought sandwiches. Everyone must not have had breakfast yet, right? Don't worry, I brought everyone the sandwiches I made myself. I guarantee you'll all get perfect scores after eating them. We're the best. Eat heart-shaped sandwiches and score the highest in the city. My sister was all smiles, and in her school uniform skirt she looked like a little sun. She was a big name at school, and almost everyone knew how clever and skillful she was with her hands. She could amaze everyone with any kind of handmade craft. In her past life, she handed heart-shaped sandwiches to every classmate boarding the bus at the school gate, unaware that the meat inside the sandwiches had gone moldy. As a result, a classmate in the exam hall suffered diarrhea halfway through the test and was sent to the hospital because of food poisoning and loss of consciousness. They were forced to give up the exams in the following days. 3 years of hard work were ruined in an instant. After being discovered, my sister cowered behind me, tearfully sobbing. I know my younger sister has always been jealous of how deft and likable I am, but you can't deliberately put moldy meat into the college entrance exam meals. I apologize to everyone on behalf of my younger sister, and I will do my best to make it up to you all. My parents even took the initiative to testify for her, personally handing me over to those disgruntled examinees and letting them torment me, all just to protect my sister's reputation from being damaged. Even my childhood sweetheart, who came up from the countryside with me to take the exam, spoke up for her. Only then did I realize he had long since harbored the idea of currying favor with my sister and enjoying wealth and glory. In the end, I was stuffed full of moldy meat by the enraged examinees and literally burst to death. Maybe I died too wrongly. When I opened my eyes again, it actually sent me back to the critical moment. I watched my sister perform quietly. Just as she was about to hand me the sandwich, I asked, "Sister, this sandwich isn't poisoned, is it? It won't give me diarrhea, will it?" Her mouth turned down as she said aggrievedly, "How can you slander me like this, little sister? I spent all night making this. I personally oversaw every step. How could it be unclean? I just thought everyone was busy studying for exams and probably wouldn't have time for breakfast. Besides, hasn't everyone eaten the things I made before? There's no way there'd be a problem this time either." My sister often brought various cookies and snacks she made to share with the entire school for free, and from then on, her reputation for being clever and skillful spread widely throughout the school. But behind the scenes, unknown to anyone, these things were actually forced upon me to make day and night. It was also because of this illusion that in my previous life, almost everyone in the school had eaten her sandwiches. Watching her self-satisfied expression, I sneered inwardly and curled my lips to retort, "Then you wouldn't deliberately avoid eating them yourself, would you?" Chapter 2. She immediately opened her bag, took one out, and started eating. How could that be? I plan to eat sandwiches for all 3 meals a day. Since Mom and Dad aren't home, we need to take good care of ourselves. You should eat them with me too, little sister. The students wavered on the spot. One classmate who had already had a sandwich came forward and asked for 2 more, saying that he too would eat sandwiches 3 times a day. Those who hadn't gotten one yet rushed over eagerly, scrambling to reach into the insulated box to grab one. I took the sandwich, but I didn't open it to eat right away. Everyone should still be careful. The college entrance exam is coming up, and you can't just eat anything. If you end up with diarrhea and it delays you, then all those 3 years of hard work will have been wasted. You can eat it after the exam just the same." In response to my well-intentioned reminder, some people thought it made sense. Once the exam is over, not to mention 3 meals a day, even eating it for 3 days straight wouldn't matter. We're about to head into the exam hall, so being cautious is always the right call. But my sister wouldn't have it. She glared at me angrily, tears streaming down her face like pear blossoms in the rain. I made this step by step, even washing the lettuce several times. How could it cause diarrhea, little sister? I know you've always felt that mom and dad favor me, but you can't just make things up to slander me, can you? I shrugged my hands. I'm not slandering you, I'm just reminding everyone to be cautious. Besides, I'm doing this for your own good. You wouldn't want to be blamed by everyone if something goes wrong, would you? Although my sister was truly malicious. 3 years of relentless hard work shouldn't be wasted because of one person. An innocent person shouldn't ruin their bright future over this. My sister's gaze turned icy in an instant, and when everyone shifted their attention to her face again, she was wearing that same little son expression. Why are you still not leaving? There are only 2 hours left until the exam, and we can't afford to waste any time. It was my male classmate who had come up from the countryside with me to take the exam. In my previous life, when we were studying in the countryside, he had taken the initiative to ask me to help tutor him. After I refused, he persisted with sweet talk and coaxing until I reluctantly agreed. With my help, he barely managed to get into the same high school as me. But after my sister made a mistake, not only did he not help me, he also used the illusion of being close to me to help my sister fabricate evidence, stepping forward to say that I had prepared the meat on my own initiative, claiming he had clearly warned me, but I didn't listen. In the end, they stepped on my reputation to inherit the family fortune and lived happily ever after. Thinking of this, I suddenly had a brilliant idea. A slut and a dog, a perfect match forever. As soon as her sister saw it was him, she immediately started complaining. Wah, sister says I deliberately made a poisonous sandwich. You're the closest to sister, so hurry up and help me explain. Su Minghui directly handed him one of the sandwiches from her backpack. This sandwich is just burnt. How could it be poisonous? Li Zhang's eyes lit up, and he leaned over like a dog. Really, Hui, I want to eat your love sandwich too, as expected of someone so clever and skilled. Unlike Su Lingji, that village girl who can't do any of this, the older sister blushed and smiled shyly at his flattery. He wasn't satisfied with just one sandwich. Instead, he took the initiative to ask for 4 more. What Hui makes must be different. I've got to eat a few more. I gave a sarcastic smile. I'm a country girl, so what does that make you? Since I met Li Zhang, he asked me to help tutor him. I had been left in the countryside by my parents for more than 10 years, and I tutored him for 9 years too, until my grandmother, who raised me, passed away, and my parents had no choice but to come and take me back. Li Zhang also got into a high school in the city smoothly, but as soon as he arrived, he completely changed his attitude. Go ahead and eat, let's see if my sister's poison can kill you. At that moment, the teacher came to call us to set off. I saw someone trust my sister again and eat the sandwich. Those willing to heed my advice would of course get through the college entrance exam safely and soundly, but for those who wouldn't listen, there was nothing I could do. Su Minghui and I were in the same exam room, and she was in the seat right in front of mine. As soon as we sat down, Su Minghui turned around and threw down a harsh remark at me. Stop struggling. You can't even get into a junior college, so why are you sitting here? I ignored her. As soon as the exam bell rang, I focused solely on answering the questions. Although I had been reborn, the butterfly effect meant that the questions had changed too. After coming here from the countryside, I deliberately kept my scores low in every exam. If my sister found out, she would definitely squeeze me even harder to make snacks and handicrafts. To have time to study, I kept my scores within the bottom 10 in the class. I successfully deceived her, and now I can finally showcase my abilities in this college entrance exam. I focused on answering the questions, but Su Minghui in front of me started to get restless, constantly fidgeting in her chair. I didn't even look up, as this outcome was something I had long anticipated. It was only natural that she would have a stomachache right in the exam hall after eating a sandwich. Su Minghui's face turned red from holding it in, and she raised her hand, signaling that she needed to go to the restroom, but after only a few steps, she suddenly had a massive bout of diarrhea. A foul stench filled the classroom. That wasn't the most important part, though. Large beads of cold sweat were pouring from Su Minghui's forehead, and her face and lips were deathly pale. She crouched down and pressed tightly on her stomach. The invigilator quickly called for emergency medical assistance, but at this moment, Su Minghui shouted, I don't need emergency care, I still need to take the exam. I curled the corner of my mouth in a mocking smile. After the medical staff arrived and gave her emergency treatment, she was able to stand up, but the first thing she did was not to continue the exam. Instead, she suddenly turned her head and tried to grab my paper. I dodged quickly and raised my hand. Teacher, isn't she out of her mind? She even tried to tear up my paper. Su Minghui shouted with a twisted expression. I didn't, I'm very clear-headed, my hand just slipped. I want to keep taking the exam. How could that possibly have been a slip of the hand? She just couldn't take the exam herself, and she still wanted to ruin my future. Chapter 4. But this time, no matter how much she tried to argue, it was useless. She was carried away on the spot and taken into the ambulance. Even as she left, she was still muttering, it was Su Lingji, she deliberately harmed me. She's jealous that my grades are better than hers, so she poisoned me with a laxative. Of course, she was not the only one like that. Outside the window, the constant wail of ambulances was the most wonderful sound I had heard in this life. The first day of the exam was over. I returned home to, as expected, an empty house. It's always like this. When mom and dad go out, they only say hello to my older sister, Su Minghui, after they had me. Mom and dad left me with my grandmother in the countryside and never came to see me even once. Everything I ate, wore, and used was paid for with my grandmother's money. Getting into a high school in the city was also tuition-free. My parents gave birth to me but never raised me, and sometimes I really want to ask them why, but grandma stroked my head and told me that the most precious thing she had ever seen was the Lingji mushroom that grew in the mountains. She named me Lingji because she believed I was an incredibly precious person. From then on, I stopped holding any illusions about my parents. I had hoped grandma would live to see me get into college, but I was still one step too late. After I went to the study, I fell fast asleep holding grandma's photo. Early the next morning, I set out for the exam venue, and heard that many students from our school had been sent to the hospital. The doctor diagnosed it as food poisoning. Right now, the parents are making a scene at the hospital, saying the school isn't taking responsibility and fed the students random food. I was more than happy to see it happen. The more they made a fuss, the safer I was. Public opinion will force Su Minghui to behave herself like a shrinking turtle, and she can forget about disturbing my exam these few days. After this incident, the teacher today strictly forbade students from distributing food. They could only bring their own. I ate my homemade sandwich until I was completely full. This is what healthy food is. In my previous life, Su Minghui deliberately refused to give me a sandwich. Although I narrowly escaped disaster in the exam room, I never made it to the results. Before they were even announced, she framed me, and in the end I was wrongfully killed. This time, I will never give her even the slightest chance. After finishing my last exam, I had just walked out of the door when my parents rushed up to me in a fury. They raised their hands, intending to slap me hard, and they said, "You useless thing, hurting your sister wasn't enough. You actually forced so many innocent classmates to give up the college entrance exam. Today I'll beat you to death." Chapter 5. Watching their unreasonable behavior, my heart was unusually calm. In the past, I would have been heartbroken, wondering why my parents would treat me this way, but now, I just want to stay away from them. I dodged my mother's slap, and the people around were drawn in by her words. Only then did I understand why so many candidates were absent from the 2-day high school entrance exam. With people watching, my parents became even more energized. My mom glanced at me, Su Lingji, in front of so many people. "Apologize. Do you know how big a mistake you made?" My sister was carried out of the car by my dad, seated in a wheelchair, and raised her eyebrows provocatively. She even coquettishly whined, "Mom, don't blame my sister anymore. What's done is done." "I'm willing to apologize to my sister and her classmates on her behalf," I immediately replied. "Great, then you go apologize, sis." My dad's brows instantly furrowed as he glared at me with displeasure. My mom was even more furious and raised her hand again. "Su Lingji, there has to be a limit to your jealousy of your sister. We haven't deprived you of food or shelter, and yet you dare to deliberately use spoiled meat to harm your sister. Have you had enough of living? They have always taken care of me, ensuring I never lacked food or clothing, which is the greatest kindness they could have shown me. Yet, I have only been by their side for 1 semester. In my previous life, I tearfully explained to my parents, but they were convinced it was my doing. In this life, I didn't even get the chance to explain myself before being convicted. The reporters around me were carrying cameras, and I knew that, besides the college entrance exam reporters, there were also entertainment reporters deliberately summoned by my sister. But that was exactly what I wanted. With red-rimmed eyes, I said aggrievedly, "Mom, how can you tell such a blatant lie with your eyes wide open?" Sister was handing out her own charity sandwiches. I even regretted not getting one. I believe someone was jealous of her and deliberately set her up. Since so many classmates have become victims, let's call the police. I'm sure the police will give sister the justice she deserves. After saying that, I gave Su Minghui a meaningful smile. I deliberately walked up to her in front of the camera and said, "Sister, you must feel so embarrassed, right? It's not your fault that you couldn't hold it in during the exam, I'll help you." Ignoring Su Minghui's unpleasant expression, I immediately took out my phone and called the police. My mother slapped my phone away and said, "Who allowed you to call the police? Do you think this isn't already a big enough mess? Your sister fell ill during the exam, and all you cared about was finishing the test instead of going to the hospital to take care of her." Take care of her? I was practically on the verge of laughing in frustration at this moment, because a reporter was live streaming. The victim's family arrived at the hospital and on the scene. "Su Minghui, you bitch, you ruined my son's bright future." Without the slightest politeness, before anyone could react, she rushed up and shoved Su Minghui out of the wheelchair. Chapter 6. Meanwhile, the families, bringing their children with them, kept streaming in from all directions. Mom and Dad wanted to stop it, but they couldn't. My older sister lay face down on the ground in a humiliating sprawl, trying to get up only to be pushed back down. They surrounded my sister and all angrily began to blame her. "Su Minghui, I trusted you so much that I even ate the sandwich on the spot to prove it for you, and what happened? I passed out right there in the exam room. 3 years, all gone. You're usually so clever and handy. Was this on purpose? You've ruined our future. You have to take responsibility." My sister was helped to her feet by Mom, who had finally managed to squeeze into the crowd. The two of them were disheveled, and my sister hurriedly tried to defend herself. "How could I possibly harm everyone? I ended up in the hospital too, didn't I? What kind of person I am? Haven't you all known me for 3 years? It must have been when my younger sister was preparing the meat for me. She deliberately didn't check it. I apologize to all of you on my sister's behalf." Then she looked over the crowd at me and said sternly, "Little sister, you've gone too far this time. Even if you're jealous of me, I could let the little squabbles from before go, but this time, you shouldn't have done this." I laughed. She was so afraid that she couldn't even keep her story straight. At this moment, she was just a clown jumping around on a stage, without me even refuting her further. My classmates all sneered, still trying to make excuses. "What kind of sister are you? You won't admit to what you did yourself, and instead you're pinning it on your younger sister. If I were your younger sister, I'd probably have had the worst luck for 8 generations. When you handed out the sandwiches, you said every step was under your own control, so how come, when something went wrong, it was suddenly your sister doing it on purpose?" The reporters who had been loitering around immediately swarmed over like dogs spotting meat. They had initially thought it was just a mother scolding her disobedient daughter, but now that such explosive news had surfaced, no one was going to let it slip by, not to mention the entertainment reporters summoned by her sister. There was no shortage among them of people who loved spouting nonsense. The school gate was in complete chaos. Angry classmates and family members were tugging at her hair. After hearing what had just been said, anyone would think she was utterly despicable and would want to step in and kick her while she was down. This time, my sister was truly in pain. She stopped pretending to be a little son anymore, baring her teeth and grimacing like a monkey. My parents, in trying to protect her, were also beaten until they were lying on the ground, with my arms folded across my chest. All I could think was what a happy family this was. In the end, it was only because I called the police, and the police who arrived later cleared a path that they were able to get out, but the reporters had press credentials, and they kept thrusting their microphones toward them. After several fruitless attempts, someone actually remembered me, the one who had been forgotten. They came to interview me on their own initiative. Chapter 7. I shrugged and said helplessly, "Although my sister is very skilled and capable, that day she clearly saw the meat had gone moldy, but she still wouldn't listen to my advice. She thought boiling it would disinfect it. I never expected her to turn the moldy meat into sandwiches and bring them to be distributed on the day of the college entrance exam." I sighed and shook my head, deliberately putting on a regretful expression. I hope my sister pays attention next time and recognizes her mistake, apologizes to everyone, and doesn't keep making excuses or avoiding responsibility. Finally, I hope we all achieve top honors on the golden list. My sister, who had been shielded by the police to avoid the attack, fainted from anger upon hearing this. This time, she had no chance of turning things around. When distributing the sandwiches, she had confidently promised that everything was completely fine, yet, she still ended up causing many people to be hospitalized, even with the police protecting her as they carried her into the ambulance. Some people hated her to the core and blocked the front of the ambulance, refusing to move aside. The delay was so long that even her older sister had woken up. She could no longer hold back her tears and sobbed aggrievedly. "I only meant well. Why is everyone blaming me? you all chose to eat it yourselves. I had no idea the poison couldn't be boiled away. The examinee in front of the ambulance broke down and screamed, how can one sentence I didn't know, erase all my hard work? Even if you're cured today, I will never let you off. His eyes were bloodshot, and I knew he was an extremely hard-working student in the class. His mother had leukemia at home, and he had finally managed to continue his studies. Success or failure hinged on this moment, but because of Su Minghui, everything was now gone. His family couldn't afford to let him repeat the year, so he had no choice but to drop out of school, and this video was posted online. A simple, I don't know, directly infuriated netizens to the point of cursing. You don't even know and you dare give it to your classmates to eat. I heard she had excellent grades. How could she not even know about aflatoxin? Could her grades be fake too? Maybe they really are. That's why she wanted to harm her classmates to improve her own ranking, but she miscalculated. The sandwich meat she prepared got contaminated with the toxin in the pot, and ended up killing herself too. What a pity for those students. 3 years of hard work, all gone in an instant. They didn't even get to step onto the battlefield before dying on the way. She's still making excuses and falsely accusing her own sister, judging by how her parents acted at first. They're probably biased parents too. She's just been spoiled. A good beating would fix her. In my past life, I was also heavily insulted by netizens. But now all of that has been returned to its rightful owner. Whoever makes a mistake deserves the blame. After receiving treatment at the hospital, my parents brought my sister back home. They immediately kicked open the door to my room, passionately shouting into the microphone, Su Lingji, are you satisfied now that your sister is in this state? I can't even fathom how strong your jealousy is. It's just a case of food poisoning, isn't it? Your sister can't even take the college entrance exam now. And you haven't lost anything. Why can't you just admit that you did it, now that your sister is suffering like this? Is our family happy? Right now, you need to record a video immediately, saying that you made the sandwiches and that you deliberately encouraged your sister to distribute them to her classmates. With your poor grades, only you would do something like this to improve your ranking. I sneered. Why should I? There should be a limit to favoritism, right? This is a matter that involves the law. In my previous life, I was literally stuffed to death, but I won't be that foolish this time. Chapter 8. My mother directly knocked my desk lamp to the ground. Why else? Your sister is so outstanding, and you're not even worth a hair compared to her. Of course, it's you who has to make the sacrifice, I said expressionlessly. Since you love her so much, then admit it yourself. But my mother said, I still have a career to pursue. If I admit it, who will take care of your sister? It's just a career, Mom. You're not even willing to give that up. It seems you don't really love my sister that much, do you? I sneered. This is her love, filled with self-interest and calculation. My sister also came to my room, looking at me with a fragile expression. Sister, please help me just this once. Go online and admit that you did all of this, and I knew nothing about it. That way, no one will blame me. Our family company's stock has dropped so much. If this continues, we won't be able to live in a big house or wear beautiful clothes. Don't worry. After you admit it, I will definitely step up and speak for you. Besides, you've already finished your college entrance exams, but I haven't taken mine yet. Once I take over the company, I'll make sure you never have to worry about food or clothing. This is quite possibly the funniest joke I've ever heard. In my previous life, I reached out to her for help more than once, but what did she do? Not only did she refuse to help clear my name, she deliberately suggested sending me to the angry candidates. I was drugged, and when I woke up, endless torment awaited me. I was tied up every day, forced to eat moldy, foul-smelling meat. I vomited over and over again, and when I couldn't swallow it, they cut open my stomach and stuffed it in. Yet what I've endured could have been resolved with just a few words from her. Not only did she fail to help me as she had just promised, but she also deliberately allowed more marketing accounts to spread the word online, stirring up public outrage. After I die, forget about having enough food and clothing. I won't even have a coffin. All right, this matter must be handled by Su Lingji. Dad spoke with an air of authority, making the final decision. I fiddled with my phone and said, it's fine to post it, but the company can't be left to her. It has to be given to me. My mom immediately widened her eyes, looking at me in disbelief, then angrily grabbed a feather duster and was about to hit me. Who gave you the nerve? Your dad and I aren't even dead yet, and you're already eyeing the company's shares. If you were even half as outstanding as your sister, I wouldn't say anything, but you're from the countryside. How can you compare to your sister? My sister watched me with schadenfreude. and when I dodged my mom's feather duster and ran toward her, she stuck out her foot. Ever since I was little, my parents only came back during New Year's. Every time my sister wore a beautiful dress and I wore a faded, washed-out padded jacket, they would say with obvious disdain, "I wish you were even half as good as your sister." Every New Year's, I would be beaten by my mom because my sister tried to take my things and I refused to give them up. I pretended to be tripped on purpose, then spun around and shoved Su Minghui into my mom's swinging strike. Su Minghui screamed and covered her face, but I smiled and said, "How do you know I'm not better than her? I dare say I'm the city's top scorer this time. If nothing unexpected happens, I can choose any school I want." Seeing that Su Minghui had been caught in the crossfire, my mom was still about to rush over and hit me. My dad stopped her and looked at me suspiciously for a long time. "You're sure?" Chapter 9. I was extremely confident. "Why don't we make a bet? After the college entrance exam results come out, if I'm not the top scorer, I'll admit on my own that everything was done by me, but if I am, then I hope my sister will publicly give an explanation to the victims." My father was skeptical, but it didn't cost him anything. My sister grew anxious, stamping her foot. "Dad, how can you believe her? Don't forget she went to school in the countryside. She's definitely no match for me, who's been educated in a city center school since childhood. She's just deliberately refusing to admit it. By the time the college entrance exam results come out, I'll probably have been scolded to the point of being covered in blood. And what about our family's company? Can it afford to wait?" "Su Lingji, stop pretending to be something you're not." I dismissed what she said with contempt. "Are you that scared? If you can't even handle this little bit of public opinion, how could Dad dare hand the company over to you? What does being scolded have to do with the company? As long as Dad says I'm the heir, everything can be solved. After all, I did remind quite a few classmates back then and saved them once." Su Minghui panicked, and she kept looking at Dad, but my dad had already made up his mind. My mom still wanted to defend Su Minghui, but my dad cut her off directly. "All right, let's do as Lingji said." My mom and sister stared at me coldly. I, on the other hand, went downstairs to eat at my leisure and even remarked, This meal must not have been cooked by my sister, otherwise, we should be calling 911 by now." My sister looked furious but couldn't do anything about me. I calmly waited for the day when the college entrance exam results would be announced, but some people just had to go out of their way. Li Zhang found me in the library and, without a word, dragged me out the door. "Lingji, now Minghui has suffered all kinds of grievances. She's a girl who's been pampered and spoiled, not like you who grew up rough in the countryside. Can't you just take the blame for her? You should step forward and say it was all your fault, that it had nothing to do with your sister, that you were jealous of her and staged the whole thing yourself, but it led to an unexpected accident. After all, you're from the countryside, and your sister still has a bright future ahead of her. You can't just watch her be ruined like this, can you?" What a load of nonsense, and to think I once admired him for his determination to rely on his own abilities to make it out of the mountains. The result is nothing but a short-sighted dog. I consider admiring him to be the biggest stain on my life. I've washed my eyes several times, but it still doesn't feel right. I curled my lips in mockery. "Li Zhang, how could you be foolish enough to say such a thing? If that's the case, you don't have a bright future either, so why are you standing here? Why not just go take the blame for a murderer?" He stared at me gloomily and started acting shamelessly. Chapter 10. "If you don't help Minghui, I'll go online and say it was you who did it. After all our classmates know how close we are." Resorting to threats now, are we? I kicked him in the stomach again, and the pain forced him to let go. Just arrived at the doorstep, my sister eagerly reached out to take the backpack from my shoulder, but her eyes kept glancing backward. I dodged her hand and said sarcastically, "What's wrong? Is your sweetheart behind you? Look at how eagerly you're waiting." She rolled her eyes at me, then seemed to remember something and took the initiative to grab my hand. "Sister, has Li Zhang told you everything?" I withdrew my hand and nodded. "I did." She was so excited that she picked up her phone. "Then let's go shoot the video quickly. If we're late, we won't be able to ride the trending wave." I sneered. "No need to ride it. You've been trending for days. Li Zhang even praised you for being capable, saying he would marry you if you became a big star." Su Minghui froze, hesitating as she asked, "He only said that?" I raised an eyebrow and deliberately retorted, Is there anything else to say? Should I take the blame for you, or has he already fallen for you and wants to frame me to help you?" Su Minghui's face darkened as she covered her mouth. "How can you say that about Li Zhang? He's your childhood friend." I was puzzled and touched my face. "Childhood friend? Isn't he yours? I always thought my childhood friend was Grandma, since she raised me." After saying that, I stared at her intently and sneered. "Or is it that one night with Li Zhang wasn't enough for you? He said that night was the best moment of his life. I'm sure you'd be more than happy to help him out. I'll go tell Mom and Dad just how helpful you are." You see, in my parents' eyes, Su Minghui was born with a silver spoon in her mouth, a precious and noble daughter. She was also a tool for taking the company to the next level, but now, this tool had already developed a rebellious heart in places they didn't know about. This simply wouldn't do. Su Minghui lowered her head in fear, her body trembling uncontrollably with tension. My dad really would beat her to death. Su Minghui's knees went weak, and she pleaded with me through tears, "Sister, please don't tell Dad. Or I'll die." "You can deny the poison sandwich incident. Just spare me this once." What a complete reversal of the natural order. The poison sandwich wasn't even made by me. Why should I admit to it? Dad will find out what you did sooner or later. Because of the poison sandwich incident, Dad has already paid out a lot in compensation. But some classmates have spent years studying and are counting on this one college entrance exam. No matter how much money there is, it can't buy back their future. If he finds out again that his once proud daughter had even been with a poor kid, I'm afraid it will cause a huge uproar. I didn't miss the hatred in Su Minghui's eyes, but I don't care anymore. The overall situation is settled, and she won't have a chance to turn things around. Even if there is, I will firmly press her into the dirt under the pressure of public opinion. An investigation team came to the house to inquire. Many netizens are concerned about the investigation results and even send greetings to my sister every day. This caused her mental state to deteriorate further, and when the investigation team came to her door, she didn't hold out for long before revealing all the facts. The college entrance exam results were released the next day. Chapter 11. My dad and I waited together in front of the computer, while my mom was still in the room comforting Su Minghui. As soon as the time came, I pressed the confirm button, but no numbers representing the scores appeared. This scene was witnessed by Su Minghui, who had come out to use the restroom, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I told you, my sister is lying. Her grades aren't even good enough for a third-tier university, so she must be exaggerating this time too." My mother chimed in, "Exactly, our Minghui is the capable one. I've already contacted a teacher abroad for you. We don't need a college entrance exam score." But the next second, my father's phone rang, and he answered it with a grim expression. It instantly turned into ecstasy after a second, and he proactively turned on the speakerphone. "Su Lingji's dad, your daughter is ranked first in the city. She can choose any university she wants." Hearing this, I remained calm. This was simply my capability, but Su Minghui went crazy, muttering on the side, "Impossible, impossible." Even in the end, she lunged to snatch my dad's phone, screaming, "Did Su Lingji give you money? You're acting, aren't you?" My dad frowned, suppressing his anger as he pushed her away. He said to my mom, "Hurry up and take her back to her room." I watched all of this calmly and said before she left, "Sister, it's not your room you should be going back to. The investigation team has been waiting for a long time." That day, my father transferred most of the shares into my name. My mother was locked up by him in a mental hospital. After graduating from university, I inherited the company and successfully led it into the international market. Year later, I brought my mother home for a family dinner. During the time I left to buy wine, the villa caught fire. My mother resented my father for not helping Su Minghui, so she took advantage of his unpreparedness and stabbed him directly. Unfortunately, she knocked over the candlestick and burned herself to death as well. 2 years later, I sat before the interviewees, and the first person to enter introduced themselves by name. "Hello, interviewers. My name is Li Yu. Li Yu is the younger brother of Li Zhang. I made him my personal assistant." From his mouth, I learned about Li Zhang's fate. Li's parents were extremely disappointed in him, severed ties with him, and kicked him out of the house. After I started college, I had been supporting Li Yu all along. He was different from Li Zhang. He succeeded on his own. I smiled, and Li Yu suddenly turned his head. "Sister, what are you laughing at?" Ever since he found out I was Su Lingji, he apologized on behalf of my brother, but he no longer wanted to call me boss, so I let him be. No, did I laugh? As I got up to board the plane, I was stopped by a beggar dressed in tattered clothes. Li Yu hurried over to help me push him away, then gave a look to the bodyguards around us. After getting on the plane, I spoke again. "He is Li Zhang, I know, but he's not as important as you." Years later, a beggar murder case was reported. There was only one victim, Su Minghui, murderer, Li Zhang. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. There is rat droppings in the rice soup. To detoxify, my sister-in-law actually fed my nephew a rat poison pill. Upon seeing this, I quickly took my nephew to the hospital. Fortunately, he was sent in time, and his life was saved. But from that day on, every time my nephew faced setbacks, my sister-in-law would blame me for it. It was all because your aunt insisted on taking you to the hospital for a blood transfusion when you were little, ruining your fate. After years of indoctrination, my nephew grew to hate me more and more. Finally, on the day he failed his high school entrance exam, a knife was plunged into my chest. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my sister-in-law tried to feed my nephew rat poison. I was reborn and returned to the day my sister-in-law fed my nephew rat poison. As soon as I got home for the weekend, I saw my sister-in-law and my mother gathered around my nephew Zhang Chenyang. Looking extremely anxious, when I entered the room, my mother immediately shouted at me angrily, "Where have you been running off to? Why are you only coming back now?" I turned my back, pretending to know nothing, and replied in a calm tone, "I went to town with Li Qian." "What's the matter?" My sister-in-law chimed in, "It's all because of your mom. She makes such a mess of the kitchen every day, and the mice have gotten out of control. She doesn't even wash the rice properly before cooking it. There's mouse droppings in it, and she didn't even notice. She even fed it to your nephew." My mother frowned and sighed repeatedly. "It's all my fault. My old eyes are failing me. I didn't even notice that was rat droppings." My sister-in-law shot my mother a glance. "Luckily, I gave him a rat poison pill, or who knows what could have happened." My mother tugged at my sleeve. "Sweetie, rat poison is toxic. Could something go wrong? Should we take him to the hospital? You're at least a college student, you should know more than we do." The moment our eyes met, I suddenly remembered, in my previous life, she had also asked me a question. "My brother has been working away from home all year round since he got married. Usually, only my sister-in-law and my mother are left at home. My sister-in-law has always had a difficult personality, and ever since she gave birth to Zhang Chenyang, she has completely disregarded my mother. Naturally, the financial control of the household is also in my sister-in-law's hands. Even if my mother wants to buy groceries, she has to ask my sister-in-law for money." During the holiday, I finally looked forward to my arrival. Then, there were differing opinions on everything, and I was pushed to the forefront. As for my sister-in-law, she is both uneducated and a miser. In her mind, the hospital has always been a place that cheats her out of her money. So in my previous life, when I learned that Zhang Chenyang had taken rat poison, I immediately planned to take him to the county hospital, but my sister-in-law kept stopping me, saying I was making a fuss over nothing and would just be wasting money. Thinking that my nephew's life couldn't be delayed any longer, I still went ahead despite the objections. After being taken to the hospital and learning the details, the doctor immediately ordered a blood test for the nephew. Fortunately, he was brought to the hospital in time. After having his stomach pumped, undergoing a blood transfusion, and receiving several days of intravenous fluids, the nephews safely recovered from the danger. On the day of discharge, my sister-in-law looked at the high hospitalization bill. She was immediately filled with anger and frustration. "I always said hospitals are just scams. It would have digested in a few days anyway, but they insisted on sending him to the hospital. Not only did it cost money, but they also drew my son's blood, making him suffer for no reason. All that education was a complete waste. I think she did it on purpose." It was as if both the doctor and I were their enemies. I was furious, but considering my nephew's health and knowing my sister-in-law has always been stingy, I didn't make a big deal out of it. But gradually, I realized that my tolerance was actually encouraging her bad behavior. After that incident, from minor colds to failing exams, my sister-in-law would repeatedly nag in his ear, "Poor child, you were destined for a life of wealth and honor. It's all because your aunt insisted on taking you to the hospital when you were little, changing your blood and ruining your fate. Otherwise, you would have been the smartest person in our village." My nephew didn't quite understand what she meant. As he grew older, after years of being influenced by her words, he gradually began to harbor hatred toward me. Finally, while I was asleep, he plunged a knife deep into my heart. Just before I died, I heard him say, "Auntie, don't hate me. My mom said killing you isn't a crime and it'll bring back my wealthy fate. Blame yourself for taking me to the hospital. You ruined me." I took my last breath in terror and disbelief. Before dying, he didn't even close his eyes. "Speak up, what on earth are you thinking?" My mother anxiously tapped me on the back, pulling my thoughts back to reality. Having been reborn with such difficulty, I have no desire to wade into this muddy water again. Suppressing the overwhelming hatred with all my might, I shook my head and said with a sincere expression, "I really don't know about this. After all, it's not something they teach in school. You and sister-in-law have more experience, so you should know better." With that one sentence, I tossed the question right back at them. The next second, I saw my mother's face darken. I knew she wanted me to tell my sister-in-law to take him to the hospital for a checkup. That way, no matter the outcome, it wouldn't affect her. I didn't understand it back then, but after witnessing her clear my nephew's name in front of the police and arrange a ghost marriage for my corpse for just 20,000 yuan, I came to despise her completely. Since heaven has given me a chance to be reborn, I will make every person who harmed me compensate me twice over. Upon hearing my words, my sister-in-law sneered disdainfully, speaking with full confidence. "What could possibly go wrong? It's just such a tiny little grain. A mouse's body is so small. It would take a lot to poison it to death. My Yang is so strong. How could he not digest such a small amount?" I lowered my head and smiled without saying a word. My mother thought it made sense, and her expression instantly relaxed. She then turned to look at me and said, "That's true. Would you like some rice porridge? I'll go get you a bowl. It would be a waste not to have it." I sneered inwardly and replied calmly, "No, thanks. Li Qian and I already ate in town." After returning to the room, I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't want to stay in this house for a moment longer. That very night, I packed my bags. Using the excuse of needing to prepare for exams at school, I boarded the train to campus the next day. Before leaving, my mother held my hand, hesitating to speak. Under my sister-in-law's furious glare, after a long while, she managed to squeeze out a few words. "Call when you arrive." I understood the reason behind her actions all too well. She felt that with my departure, there would be one less person to stand up to my sister-in-law. Alongside her, after returning to school, lying alone in the dormitory, I inexplicably felt a sense of relief and ease, but I had only been comfortable for a few days. Then I received a call from my brother. "Nian, come back quickly. Something big has happened. Yang is in the hospital now." After taking a bite of the chicken leg, I turned down the volume of the TV show. I shouted at the top of my lungs, "Bro, I've been busy with exams lately. It's normal for Yang to go to the hospital when he's sick. Just take good care of him." The next second, my sister-in-law's voice nearly pierced my eardrums. "What exams? Are exams more important than Yang? Do you have any conscience?" I moved my phone further away, drawing out my voice. What did you say? I'm outside right now. I can't hear you very well. Let's talk later." Without waiting for the other side of the call to say anything more, I hung up directly. Damn it, still trying to use me as cannon fodder. Dream on, you bear the consequences of your own sins. I want no part of it. A week later, I leisurely took the train, chugging along, and finally made my way to the hospital. Inside the ward, as soon as I walked in, my sister-in-law's family and my mother all looked at me with eyes full of resentment. "Heartless wretch, your brother was so good to you when you were little, and now that your nephew is in the hospital, you don't even bother to ask." "Pa, my brother was good to me." Hearing this, I struggled to hold back my laughter. All the good things in the family went to my brother, and he simply took everything for granted. He treats me more like a maid than anything else. Saying he's good to me is like saying a stray dog on the street is good to me. At least a dog would wag its tail when it sees me. My sister-in-law shot me a glare and said with displeasure, "How could she possibly remember? Now she's just eager to spread her wings and fly away. I don't think she cares about this family at all." I put down the supplements I had brought and smiled. "You're really wronging me. I thought Yang just had a common cold and went to a small clinic. It's all because it was too noisy outside that day, and I couldn't hear clearly. Besides, with you and Mom at home, I figured you'd definitely be better than me when it comes to taking care of the child." My words still didn't ease my sister-in-law's anger. "Even if you didn't hear clearly that time, why didn't you answer all those messages and calls I sent you later? I think you did it on purpose." My mother nodded in agreement. "Exactly. In the end, it's just that you think you're all grown up and have lost sight of your own worth." I suppressed my anger and didn't get upset. I accidentally lost my phone that night, and it was only 2 days ago that I managed to buy a second-hand phone and get my SIM card replaced. I really didn't expect that the two of you, looking after Yang, would end up making him sick. That remark instantly set off my sister-in-law, who snapped sharply, "What do you mean by that?" As soon as the words left my mouth, I mustered all my strength and forced a smile. "Don't misunderstand, sister-in-law. I'm just concerned about my nephew, that's all." My mother chimed in from the side. Concerned, but you didn't bother to come earlier. You only show up now, just as he's about to be discharged." I didn't respond, just wondering in my heart how it could be resolved so quickly. According to my past life memories, A condition like my nephew's would require at least 10 to 20 days of treatment. He had been hospitalized for less than a week, so why was he being discharged already? It was only later that I found out my sister-in-law had lied to the doctor, claiming that my nephew had eaten something unclean and had diarrhea. The doctor prescribed some anti-inflammatory and anti-diarrheal medication, and after a few days of 4 drips, I went home. On the first night back home, my sister-in-law happily left my nephew with my mom and went to the village factory to dance in the square. I looked at my nephew, pale and thin in my mom's arms. I couldn't help but feel both pity and resentment. My nephew is slowly growing up and has already started elementary school, but he is much thinner and smaller than the other kids in his class. Some are even a head taller than him. Moreover, he looks pale and emaciated, often suffers from bleeding gums, or if he gets a cut, it takes a long time for the bleeding to stop. The neighbors in the village sometimes kindly reminded my sister-in-law to take the child to the hospital for a checkup. They wondered if he was lacking something in his body or if he had some kind of illness. My sister-in-law would always laugh it off and not take it seriously at all. Oh, the child is still young, he'll naturally grow when it's time for him to get taller. As for the bleeding gums, that's just because he's about to start losing his baby teeth. It's nothing serious. It wasn't until my brother came home and discovered it that she reluctantly went to the pharmacy in town to buy 2 bottles of vitamin supplements, and what's more, they were adult vitamins. Just give him a smaller dose when the time comes. Besides, with such a tiny body, he doesn't need that much supplementation anyway. My mother didn't know much and couldn't argue with her. Seeing her precious grandson in this state, she could only frown and worry helplessly on the side. Afterwards, she complained to me over the phone, asking me to talk to my sister-in-law. I've been to school, so at least my sister-in-law might listen to a word or two of what I say. Mom, even if I say something, my sister-in-law won't listen. I think you should talk to my brother more. Wasn't it after he said something that my sister-in-law bought the vitamins? After all, their family, in this life, I already know exactly what kind of people they are anyway. I won't be foolish enough to play the sucker again. Not getting the answer she wanted, my mom's tone began to sound a bit impatient. Your brother works so hard outside, and if I keep bothering him with these things, it'll just affect him. If I ask you to say something, just say it. You don't even care about your own nephew. I think you're really ungrateful. They say a married daughter is like spilled water, but she's not even married yet, and her heart is no longer in this home. Hearing this, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh inside. In my past life, I foolishly hoped that by being good to my nephew, I could earn a little affection from my mother, but in her eyes, it was all because I was a girl. They are someone else's family, and no matter what you do, it won't make a difference, not even comparable to a neighbor she usually greets with a nod and a bow. Thinking of this, I gritted my teeth, suppressing the anger in my heart, and said coldly, Mom, since Yang Yang's own father, mother, and grandmother don't care, how can I interfere? If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up now. Oh, and in the future, don't call me unless it's something important. I can imagine what kind of curse words my mom would blurt out next. I quickly hung up the phone. Unexpectedly, just half a month later, something major happened at home. I have no idea what happened to my brother. One after another, they started experiencing headaches, vomiting, and diarrhea. My mother earnestly urged my sister-in-law to take my brother to the hospital, but my sister-in-law just wouldn't allow it, always thinking he'd get better if he just rested a bit. Now, nearly a week has passed, and not only has he not improved, but he's even started having some difficulty breathing. My mom called me, sounding very anxious. She told me to come home right away. It happened to be during the holiday. I was a bit curious about what exactly was going on. I took a car and rushed back to my hometown. At home, my brother lay weakly in bed, his face somewhat pale. He spoke with little energy. When she saw me arrive, my mother's expression darkened, and she secretly glanced at my sister-in-law. Go check on your brother right now, see how serious it is. My sister-in-law snorted coldly. What's the big deal? It doesn't look serious at all. It's just your mom insisting there's something wrong with your brother. My mom's face turned dark with anger, but she didn't dare to argue back loudly, only muttering quietly, Yaozu used to be so healthy, never catching a cold for years. Now he's dealing with all sorts of health issues. How could there be nothing wrong? At that moment, my brother also struggled to sit up. It's nothing. At most I just ate some rice that a rat had crawled over that day and got a stomachache. I'll be fine after resting for a few days. I was taken aback and suddenly felt that something was off. Seeing me like this, my sister-in-law said with a look of indifference, Don't worry, I already gave your brother the medicine yesterday. What medicine? The three of us asked in unison. My sister-in-law grinned, looking proud. Rat poison, so don't worry, he'll be fine after sleeping for a couple of days. As soon as these words were spoken, my mother's face turned even paler than my brother's, and I was also stunned. My sister-in-law was somewhat displeased. Why are you all making such faces? It's not like you've never eaten it before. I know what I'm doing. I only spent a little bit. Looking at her confident expression, I couldn't help but find it both amusing and exasperating. My sister-in-law is right. When Yang Yang was little and ate rat droppings, didn't she also give him a rat poison pill? He's still alive and well now, though his health. With that, I pretended to look at my nephew in surprise, then fixed my gaze on my brother. Brother, your symptoms seem to be the same as Yang Yang's. Could it be that Yang Yang's condition now is because... My brother's face instantly turned pale, and even my sister-in-law's smile froze on her face. As for my mom, she was completely stunned, rooted to the spot. These are all folk remedies. And they're very effective. What nonsense are you talking about? How are your brother and Yang Yang's symptoms the same? Nyen Nyen, don't talk nonsense if you don't understand. My sister-in-law grew anxious and, to protect her reputation, began to exaggerate things about me. You were there at the time too. Besides, didn't we already go to the hospital? The doctor didn't say anything was wrong. I hesitated, struggling to find the right words, and stammered, Sister-in-law, you're really wronging me here. Back then, you kept saying it was nothing. I didn't say a word. And at the hospital, you didn't even tell the doctor the truth. My mother also angrily scolded. Exactly. I thought it was inappropriate at the time and insisted on taking him to the hospital, but you refused to listen. Now, not only have you harmed my grandson, but you're even scheming against my son. It seems like you want our family to die out. You old woman, what nonsense are you talking? Hearing this, my sister-in-law instantly jumped 3 feet high. Her words had just left her mouth when my brother, struggling to support himself, got out of bed. He raised his thick arm, swung it in a full arc, and slapped my sister-in-law right across the face. What the hell did you just call my mother? No wonder my son's body has become like this. It's all because of you, you wretched woman. Now you still want to harm me. My sister-in-law was beaten senseless, covering her heavily swollen face, crying as if her heart would break. You dare to hit me, just for such a small matter. You hit me. I don't want to live anymore. The hysterical sister-in-law was still only concerned about having been hit. She completely failed to notice the overwhelming fury in my brother's eyes. My brother glared with bloodshot eyes and roared at his wife, if we take him to the hospital and they find out my son is really in danger, you'll be dead either way. My sister-in-law instantly stopped crying, tears welling up in her eyes with a pitiful expression. After arriving at the hospital, my brother truthfully explained everything to the doctor. Upon hearing this, the doctor immediately began arranging for blood tests. My brother was scheduled for gastric lavage, testing, and treatment. As soon as my sister-in-law heard that it would cost money, she immediately complained, You're all fine, aren't you? It's just a bit of a stomachache. Is it really necessary to make such a big fuss? The food you eat outside might not be any cleaner. You're making such a big deal out of nothing, even hitting me. I bet you're just unhappy that I've been staying home for too long and not earning any money, aren't you? Shut up. I don't have the energy to argue with you right now. I'll settle this with you once I'm better, my brother said through gritted teeth. When my brother was taken into the operating room, my sister-in-law was still cursing and complaining in the hallway. My mother collapsed at the entrance of the emergency room, continuously wiping away her tears. She cried for her poor, precious grandson, for her poor son, and for her own miserable fate. Only I stood silently in the distance, quietly watching them. Is life bitter? This is just the beginning. Even more bitterness lies ahead, because the dosage of the medicine was small, and it wasn't the highly toxic kind. My brother was out of danger soon after the surgery, but the danger was with my nephew. My nephew's test results came out. On top of that, he had also taken adult vitamins. At this moment, the small body was suffering from severe problems in various organs. There was no time to waste. Surgery had to be performed as soon as possible. I had long anticipated this outcome, but I still pretended to look shocked on my face. How could it be this serious? My sister-in-law now realized the seriousness of the situation, too scared to even lift her head, just continuously shedding tears. What should we do? Where can we get so much money? My mother clutched the bill in her hand, not sure if she was asking my brother or me. I chuckled to myself. What to do? Just let it be. Nyen Nyen, you've been interning for a few months now, so you must have saved up quite a bit, right? Hearing this, I quickly squeezed out a few tears. Mom, I want to help my nephew too. since he was little, I've always cared for him the most, but look at me, I only have 500 yuan left in my bank card, the internship salary the school arranged is only 1200 a month, and I've used it all for living expenses." As she spoke, she showed her the balance page of her bank card. "I don't want to repeat the mistakes of my past life and give them another chance to hurt me." My mother looked at the balance on the screen, and her face instantly darkened. "You don't even have money, your education was really a waste. I should have just let you get married right after high school." "Of course I have money, through part-time jobs and scholarships. I've secretly saved up 40 to 50,000 yuan, but I just don't want to give it to them." Without responding to my mom, I turned to her with a cold expression and asked, "Mom, then how do you think I've managed all these years without asking for a single cent from home?" My mom, of course, knew exactly what I meant. She waved her hand impatiently. "All right, enough of that. Instead of wasting time, you should think about which friend you can borrow some money from. Should it be borrowed in your name, or in my brother's reputation?" I raised an eyebrow and asked. My mother shot me a glare and said with annoyance, "What kind of talk is that? If you go to borrow it, of course, it's yours." Hearing this, I almost couldn't hold back a laugh. "I'm so poor, who would dare lend me money?" With a flicker in my eyes, I continued, "By the way, I still have about 30 or 40,000 in debt outside. Mom, how about you help me pay it off first, and then I'll go borrow more?" Seeing how serious I looked, my mother pursed her lips skeptically and scolded, "You really are useless." The next day, my nephew's surgery fee was still paid. After emptying the family savings, my mother borrowed from everyone in the village and even sold the family's only plowing ox, scraping together every penny. We barely managed to cover the surgery costs. My nephew's surgery went smoothly, however, the family still couldn't afford the follow-up treatments. My brother and sister-in-law also felt that continuing to stay in the hospital was just a waste of money. After completing the discharge procedures, they took my nephew and went home. I also returned to school once again. Since this incident, my brother has grown increasingly disgusted with my sister-in-law. After being discharged from the hospital, he even clamored and insisted on divorcing his sister-in-law. My sister-in-law and my mother called me multiple times, asking me to come up with a solution. I ignored them all. I only occasionally shared videos on my social media feed of mothers live streaming to raise funds for their children. After a long period of temptation, my sister-in-law quickly fell into the trap. In the WeChat group, my mom sent a link. I clicked on it and saw my nephew lying sickly in bed. My sister-in-law sat to the side, fiddling with the hospital diagnosis forms. From time to time, she would sob and complain about how pitiful my nephew was. I had only been watching for a few minutes when my mom called. "What do you think about what your sister-in-law is doing? She says that as long as she plays the victim, she can get a lot of money. Could something go wrong?" "I feel like it's not quite right," I said calmly. "Mom, I'm not sure about this. My sister-in-law must have her own reasons for doing this. If you're worried, you can talk to my brother." Perhaps she was struggling with it, as it took quite a while before my mom finally spoke. "Asking you is a waste of time. Then, try to bring more people to your sister-in-law." After saying that, she hung up the phone. After several days of non-stop tearful live streams, she gradually touched the hearts of many netizens. The traffic in the sister-in-law's live stream room began to grow day by day. She even received a significant number of gifts, boosting her rankings. After tasting the sweetness of success, the sister-in-law instantly felt as if she had opened the door to a whole new world. I stopped sending my nephew to school and no longer worked in the fields. Every day, I was focused on figuring out how to better gain sympathy. I even went as far as to make my nephew appear more pitiful. For several days in a row, I didn't give him any food, only feeding him a few mouthfuls of porridge to keep him alive. My mother looked on with both heartache and anger, wanting to sneak some food to her nephew many times, but each time, she was stopped by my sister-in-law. "When we make money later, won't we give him all the good food and drinks? Don't you want your grandson, and us, to live a good life?" My mom couldn't argue with her and felt frustrated inside. She just loves calling me to complain. I really can't be bothered to deal with their mess anymore. Every time, I pretend not to see it and deliberately don't answer the phone. I never expected that she would actually come to my school. "Your nephew is now being tormented beyond recognition, but your sister-in-law only cares about money and doesn't care about anything else," my mother said while wiping away her tears. I was thinking, if it really comes to it, maybe you should go and talk to your sister-in-law. Making money is important, but there has to be a limit. I watched her sobbing with a cold gaze, feeling nothing but annoyance. "Mom, I can't make decisions about this." My sister-in-law finally found a way to make big money. if I try to talk her out of it, wouldn't I be ruining her livelihood? Wait until she's earned enough money, and maybe things will get better, or you could just report her for fraud, and she won't be able to keep streaming. My mother's eyes darted around. He handed me a few fruits he bought on the way, gave me a couple of instructions, and hurried back. With the exam approaching, I was completely focused on my studies. I didn't pay any more attention to my sister-in-law's live stream updates. I'm not sure if my mom took to heart what I said to her last time. I never would have imagined, before my mother could take action, my sister-in-law, in order to make my nephew appear even more haggard in front of the camera, to win the sympathy of netizens and earn more money, she actually secretly fed him a few more rat poison pills. My nephew's body was already riddled with holes and extremely weak. After that series of actions, I couldn't hold on any longer. According to my mom, when he was carried to the hospital, his body was still convulsing uncontrollably, and he was completely unconscious. When I heard the news and rushed to the hospital, my brother and my mother were anxiously waiting by the hospital bed for the test results. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, was holding her phone, seemingly engrossed in something. She was busy taking photos and recording videos of my nephew. When she saw me come in, she grinned and said, "Oh, you're here. Take a look at how I edited my video later and give me some feedback. Also, make sure to get your classmates and friends to share it for me." As soon as she finished speaking, a doctor walked in, looking very serious. "The child is in critical condition and needs emergency surgery. You, as the parents, need to be mentally prepared. Please sign the consent form quickly." Upon hearing that another surgery was needed, my sister-in-law immediately jumped up. "What do you mean by being mentally prepared? Why is there another surgery? My son just had a minor stomachache from eating something bad. He'll be fine after a couple of days of rest. You hospitals just love to swindle us ordinary folks out of our money." The doctor glanced at my sister-in-law, his face turning pale with anger. He didn't even bother to say a word and turned to walk out of the ward. My brother and my mother hurriedly chased after him. By the time I stepped out, I heard the doctor say, "Long-term malnutrition, combined with toxins from before not being fully expelled from the body, has already caused irreversible damage to his organs. The child is currently experiencing multi-organ bleeding throughout the body, and the situation is extremely critical. If we don't proceed with surgery for emergency treatment, I'm afraid he won't last more than a few days." My brother's eyes were red, and he numbly took the surgery consent form handed to him by the doctor. Stiffly signing his name on it, he was pulled away to pay the fees. My mother, on the other hand, collapsed to the ground, unable to stand up. I still helped her back to the ward. Seeing us come in, my sister-in-law raised her eyebrows and said indifferently, "How is it? Nothing's wrong, right? I told you those doctors are all liars." I glanced at her coldly without replying. After helping my mother sit down, I took a seat by my nephew's hospital bed. Seeing that I didn't respond, my sister-in-law went ahead and started filming a video on her own. While filming, she hoarsely said, "My son's condition has worsened again. My poor child, who can help us?" After she finished filming, my brother happened to come in, and she immediately greeted him with a smile. "Look at this video I shot. So heartbreaking. Once we post it online, we can make money from live streams again." At this moment, my brother could no longer hold back the anger he had been suppressing for so long. He grabbed my sister-in-law's hair and began tearing at it back and forth. Then, he started slapping her heavily, one blow after another. "You wretched woman, damn you, you're almost killing our son. All you ever think about is money, money. Let me tell you, if anything happens to Xiao Bao, I'll make sure you pay with your life." My sister-in-law plopped down on the ground, covering her face and moaning in pain. "What else would I be thinking about if not money? If you weren't so useless and couldn't earn any money, would I have to do this? Do you think I don't feel heartbroken seeing my son like this? But without suffering, where would the money come from? Who paid off the debt? Where do you think the food and drink you're having now come from?" As she cursed, she wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, pointed at my brother's nose, and continued, "You even dare to hit me? Let me tell you, once I've saved enough money, I'm going to divorce you. Don't even think about seeing your son again." My brother grew even angrier. He immediately raised his foot and stomped down on my sister-in-law. If it weren't for the nurse stopping him, my sister-in-law would probably have been beaten to death by my brother in the hospital. Fortunately, the surgery went smoothly and was completed. My nephew's life was temporarily saved. What followed was hospitalization for treatment. However, no sooner had one wave subsided than another rose. The entire process of their argument in the hospital was recorded by someone and posted online. The recording was uploaded to the internet, quickly attracting widespread attention. Many netizens who had previously donated and tipped the nephew were both angry and frustrated upon realizing they had been deceived. The internet was flooded with criticism from netizens. They all accused the sister-in-law of being cruel and heartless. Unworthy of being a mother, they demanded that she return the money from donations and tips. Faced with the backlash, the sister-in-law showed no remorse. Instead, she believed that the more people criticized her, the better her online traffic would be, even shamelessly defending himself in the live stream, saying, "Do you think you're innocent? If it weren't for you sending gifts, would I have treated my son like that just to make money? The sicker he gets, the more gifts you send. How can you blame me? Put yourselves in my shoes. If such an easy opportunity to make big money was right in front of you, how many of you would refuse? So, all of you in front of the camera, each and every one, are just like me. None of you can escape responsibility. You are not any nobler than I am." As soon as these words were spoken, the situation exploded even more. My sister-in-law had her moment of verbal triumph, but she had no idea how terrifying cyberbullying could be. No matter how mentally strong a person is, they can still be overwhelmed. Sure enough, the next day, her account was frozen, and her private messages were flooded with overwhelming profanity. People who recognized her in the hospital pointed fingers and gossiped about her behind her back. Walking on the street, she would be inexplicably called a liar and have trash thrown at her. Even the walls outside her home were spray-painted with malicious slogans. My sister-in-law's path to wealth was instantly cut off. After realizing she could no longer earn money through live streaming, all the domineering attitude my sister-in-law had before vanished. In front of my brother, she was submissive and didn't even dare to breathe heavily. Even when my mother scolded her, she didn't dare to talk back. Because I still have classes to attend at school. 3 days later, I left the hospital unexpectedly. Just 2 days after I left, my mother called me, urging me to return quickly. "Xiaobao is in critical condition. Your brother and sister-in-law are going crazy with worry. Please come back quickly. There's no one at home who can make decisions right now." Listening to my mother's sobs, I frowned and remained silent for a long while before suddenly realizing something. I asked coldly, "Mom, both you and my brother are at home. You're both older adults, so why is it my turn to make decisions about anything? Tell me the truth. What exactly happened?" My mother sounded a bit impatient. "Just come back when I tell you to. What's a kid like you doing asking so many questions? Since you won't tell me, then I won't come back. The round-trip train tickets are quite expensive anyway." Sure enough, as soon as I said it, my mother got angry. "Your nephew is in the hospital, and all you can think about is money, money, money." I couldn't help but roll my eyes over the phone line. What else is there without money? Just this filthy family bond. Half an hour ago, a stranger added me on WeChat with a note saying, "I am Li Fugue." I was still wondering why he added me unexpectedly. Just a few minutes later, my mom called. No need to think too much. These two things are definitely connected. Taking a deep breath, I tentatively began to ask, "I suppose you're calling me back now because there's some benefit, right? Could it be that my nephew's medical expenses aren't enough, and you want to sell me off for money?" Probably because I had guessed their intention, my mother's tone suddenly became flustered, and she stammered, "And no, how can you talk to your mother like that? It's just that Xiaobao has been crying for his aunt, wanting to see you. That's why I thought of calling you back. And by the way, find some time to meet the young man from the Li family in the east of the village." My heart sank, and I replied coldly, "Is that Li Fugue, who's almost 40 now?" My mother answered, "He's not 40 yet, that's just his nominal age. He's actually only 38 this year." "Oh, older men know how to take care of people. You just don't understand. If he's so good at taking care of people, why don't you marry him yourself?" I retorted through gritted teeth. My mother said without hesitation, "They don't want me anyway, and besides, Yang is your nephew. He's the one who will carry on our family line. Isn't it normal for you to take care of him? He's not my son. Why should I take care of him? Besides, carrying on the family line is your Zhang family's business. You keep saying all day long that I'm an outsider. Since I'm an outsider, what does it have to do with me?" Without giving my mother a chance to retort, I hung up the phone as soon as I finished speaking. Finally, unable to bear the high medical costs, my brother and sister-in-law took matters into their own hands, arguing and making a scene as they took my nephew out of the hospital. As a result, on the second night after returning home, my nephew suddenly began foaming at the mouth and lost consciousness. After being rushed to the hospital, they spent a full 4 hours trying to save him. In the end, he was gone. The moment the notification arrived, outside the emergency room, a wave of wailing broke out. I stood quietly by the wall, watching the three of them cry their hearts out. There was not a single ripple of emotion in my heart. It was as if none of this had anything to do with me, and indeed, it no longer did, because, 1 week later, I am about to embark on a 3-year journey to teach in Tibet. I decided to go there, partly to get away from them. Another reason is that I want to experience different cultures and customs while I'm still young. I haven't told anyone about this, so, after boarding the train to Tibet, I also received a scathing WeChat message from my mom. Such a big thing happened at home, and you don't even care or ask about it, you ungrateful wretch. I should have strangled you back then. I didn't pay it any mind. I immediately blocked all their contact information. I heard news about them from others again 3 years later. My brother eventually divorced my sister-in-law because my sister-in-law had gone insane, driven mad by my brother's beatings. Plus, her reputation had long been ruined. Her own family didn't want to have anything to do with her either, so, my sister-in-law was left to wander the village alone. From time to time, she would be lured into some old bachelor's home with the promise of a simple meal. My brother, wanting to earn money to pay off his debts, found a job at a construction site. Unfortunately, due to his lack of experience and a disregard for safety, he accidentally fell from a high scaffold. Although he received 500,000 yuan in compensation, but from then on, my brother could never stand up again. The grandson died, the daughter-in-law went mad, the son was paralyzed, and the daughter couldn't be found. My mother cried all day long, crying about how unfair heaven had been to her. Gradually, it was unclear whether she had gone mad from the heavy blow or if it was intentional. Taking advantage of the late night, she actually set the house on fire. My brother was burned to death along with her. Upon hearing the news, I rushed back to arrange their funeral. At least I've fulfilled my final duty as a family member. I only hope that what awaits me next is an endless, sunlit path. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My nephew has a stomach ulcer and needs long-term medication. The doctor prescribed him Paraplaneta americana extract, which is essentially cockroach, to save money. My sister-in-law actually caught cockroaches herself, squeezed them into juice, filtered it, and gave it to my nephew to drink. I tried to persuade her that the common cockroaches we see are full of viruses, bacteria, parasites, and their eggs. My sister-in-law retorted, I think you've just read too many books and become foolish. I'll just boil it with hot water and soak it in liquor to disinfect it. Won't that be fine? When it comes to matters of life and death, how could I possibly listen to her? I poured all the cockroaches she had soaked in liquor into the toilet, but not long after, my nephew started convulsing all over, foaming at the mouth, and passed away shortly after arriving at the hospital. My sister-in-law blamed me for throwing away the homemade medicine and causing his death. The whole family hated me for it, lured me back to my hometown, and pushed me off a cliff. I died on the spot, and my body was completely devoured by wild animals. When I opened my eyes again, my sister-in-law told me not to meddle. I smiled and said, Sister-in-law, give me a bottle too, Li Shanshan. If you dare throw away my things, I'll fight you to the death. Opening my eyes and seeing the cockroaches soaked in a liquor bottle, I realized I had been reborn. The thought of my body being smashed heavily at the bottom of the cliff made me tremble uncontrollably. In the previous life, my nephew suffered from a stomach hemorrhage and needed long-term medication. The doctor prescribed him an extract from dried Paraplaneta americana, which is essentially a large cockroach. In order to save money, my sister-in-law Zhang Yanyan actually caught cockroaches herself, squeezed them into juice, filtered it, and gave it to her nephew to drink. Zhang Yanyan even looked quite proud. These doctors are just scamming us common folks. What we make ourselves is better and purer than theirs, isn't it? Seeing 5 large bottles filled with cockroaches soaked in alcohol, I instantly felt my scalp tingle. It's important to know that medicinal cockroaches are sterile, while the wild cockroaches Zhang Yanyan caught carry over 50 types of bacteria long-term. I advised her to throw away these cockroaches, as they not only carry bacteria and viruses but also parasite eggs, but she was completely unconcerned, saying, I think you've just read too many books and become foolish. I'll just boil them in hot water and soak them in liquor to disinfect them, and it'll be fine. Cockroach bacteria can cause rashes just from touching them, let alone ingesting them. This was a matter of life and death, so how could I possibly listen to her? Ignoring her hitting and scolding, I poured all the cockroaches she had soaked in liquor into the toilet and flushed them away. Afterward, I was left covered in scratches from her. Not long after, my nephew was rushed to the hospital, convulsing and foaming at the mouth. The doctor said that bacteria and parasites had invaded his brain. And he was diagnosed with sparganosis. After that, he suffered from a persistent high fever and passed away not long after. Zhang Yanyan, however, blamed me for throwing away the medicine and causing his death. If you hadn't poured out the medicine I brewed for Yaozu, would he have gotten sick? It's all your fault that he died. The whole family hated me for it, lured me back to my hometown, and pushed me off a cliff. You really deserve to die. Go down there and keep my Yaozu company in his grave. I died on the spot, and my body was completely devoured by wild animals. When I opened my eyes again, my sister-in-law told me not to meddle, and I calmly said, "Sister-in-law, what are you talking about? Why would I throw your things away? Give me a bottle." Zhang Yanyan looked at me with a suspicious expression. One moment I was urging her to throw away the cockroach, and the next, I had completely changed my tune. When I moved closer to the wine bottle, she even pushed me aside. "Sister-in-law, I was just joking with you earlier. I've been having stomach pains lately and wanted to take it back to drink a little." Hearing me say this, she finally felt reassured. She took out a small bottle and poured a little for me. "Shanshan, I haven't caught enough for Tianxi to drink yet. I'll just pour a bit for you. Do you know how hard it is to catch this stuff? My back has been hurting for days from the effort." Between the lines, she was hinting that she wanted money from me. When she handed it to me, the outside of the bottle was stained with a foul-smelling brown liquid that had spilled out. I held back my intense disgust, accepted it, washed my hands over 20 times in the bathroom, wrapped the bottle in several layers of plastic bags, and put it in my bag. I transferred 200 yuan to her. "Sister-in-law, you've been working hard lately. I've sent you some money. Go buy something good to nourish yourself." She opened her phone with a face full of joy, but when she saw my transfer, she pursed her lips and muttered softly, "What can 200 yuan even do? It's not even enough for me to buy groceries." It's already good that I gave her money, and she still thinks it's too little. I know she said that on purpose for me to hear. In my previous life, she took advantage of my thin skin and would always, intentionally or unintentionally, complain about being poor, trying to squeeze some money out of me. When I first graduated and started my internship, my salary was very low. I really had no money left in my card, and there was only 50 yuan in cash in my bag. But she still took it from me. After speaking, she tentatively looked up at me, thinking I would take out my phone to transfer more money to her, but I acted as if I hadn't heard, continuing to pack my things. She coughed loudly again, and I walked over to her. The triumph in her eyes at that moment was barely contained. "Sorry, I wasn't there to give her money. I was just getting her some water to soothe her throat, so she wouldn't keep dry coughing like that." I had intended to open the fridge to get her a glass of ice water, but what I saw inside left me stunned. A refrigerator full of cockroach corpses that haven't been dealt with yet, the intense stench filling my chest, making me bend over and retch uncontrollably. No wonder in my previous life, even though I had already flushed all the cockroaches down the toilet, my nephews still ended up in trouble. It turns out there were even more in the refrigerator. So Li Yaozu never stopped eating cockroaches either. Zhang Yanyan really is a master schemer. Afraid that my brother and parents would blame her, she threw the dirty water on me, making them resent me. I really took a huge fall for her. She clearly has so much, yet she only gave me a little, but it's enough for me. During dinner, I had no appetite at all, and the thought of what had just happened made me feel so disgusted I wanted to vomit. When I went to the kitchen to help bring out the dishes, I saw a few large cockroaches crawling on the food and screamed in fright. My mom, however, said I was making a fuss, shooed the cockroach away, and brought the dish to the dining table. Zhang Yanyan even boasted in front of my parents, "Mom, Dad, I know my little sister has a sensitive stomach, so I gave her a bottle of the one I've been soaking these days. She really knows how to play the good person. If I hadn't asked for it, would she have given it to me? Besides, was that really just a bottle as she claimed? Shanshan, look how good your sister-in-law is to you. You should be grateful." Funny, I should be thanking heaven and earth if she doesn't kill me, and I should be grateful to her. If I weren't so disgusted, I would have taken it out of my bag to show them how small that bottle is. When I saw Li Yaozu, I noticed his mental state was very poor. He only took a couple of bites of food before saying he was full. While they were eating, they discussed which trash cans and sewers to catch cockroaches from, and even wanted to take me along. I slipped away on the pretext of having to work the night shift. Forget about catching one. If a cockroach so much as wiggled its antennae in front of me, I'd be so scared I'd break into a laser dance. When I got home, I rinsed and disinfected the outside of that bottle many times over, then placed it in a box before finally feeling at ease. That night, I even had a nightmare. A huge swarm of cockroaches crawled onto my bed. startling me awake multiple times. Just hold on a little longer, soon I won't have to see this disgusting thing anymore. Zhang Yanyan even wanted to sell the cockroaches she had soaked on her social media, naming it Yaozu New Liquid, and priced it several times higher than genuine medicine. She also boasted that she had learned the recipe from an old sage, claiming it could not only cure all diseases but also ward off evil spirits and summon souls. Her reputation soared in the neighborhood, and the cockroaches she caught were not enough to meet the demand. Several relatives have come to ask me about it, but I can't afford to offend her right now, so I can only gently advise them not to take medicine randomly and to follow the doctor's instructions. When I saw her again, she was dressed in limited edition luxury brands. Even my usually plainly dressed parents had switched to silk clothes. They must have made quite a profit. Shanshan, don't be jealous of us. Back when we asked you to catch cockroaches, you refused. Otherwise, I could have shared some of the money with you. See, what's the use of you getting into a prestigious university? Your income now isn't even as high as mine, a middle school graduate. No way, I wouldn't dare take a single penny of the money she earns. The things she makes are all 3-no products. If something goes wrong, she'll definitely end up in jail. Besides, I've never looked down on her education level, she's just too sensitive herself. Back when my brother said he wanted to marry her, my parents firmly opposed it. Although my brother only graduated from junior high school, my parents firmly believe that he is destined to become a great person and should find someone with a higher education than mine. However, she was already pregnant at the time, and it was discovered to be a boy, so my parents had no choice but to compromise. After they got married, whenever she argued with my brother, my parents would step in to smooth things over, using her education level to belittle her. Moreover, I recently heard that someone was hospitalized after eating her 3-no products and wanted to make a scene. She explained it as an allergy and managed to settle the matter with money. Li Yaozu has also been bedridden with a fever recently, and she is afraid of being recognized, so she hasn't taken him to the hospital. She still firmly believes that her medicine is effective and has increased the dosage for him over the past few days. She truly won't give up until she sees the coffin. That night, Li Yaozu was foaming at the mouth, convulsing all over, and gasping for breath at home. Zhang Yanyan not only had no intention of sending him to the hospital but also wanted him to drink unregulated products, so my brother kicked her a meter away. My brother is a sensible person. He sensed something was wrong this time and took him to the emergency room. The doctor checked his eyelids and immediately sent him to the resuscitation room. When my parents called me to come to the hospital, they were still choking back tears. I took out the cockroach-infested wine I had previously stored in a box and headed to the hospital. When I arrived, the nurse was having my brother sign the critical condition notice. My brother signed it with trembling hands, his fingers shaking for a long time before finally stopping. Zhang Yanyan clutched her chest, knelt outside the emergency room, and cried out tearfully, "Heaven, I beg you, please save Yaozu. Now you know fear." I'm afraid it's too late. After waiting for 3 hours, Li Yaozu finally came out of surgery and was then transferred to the ICU. The doctor, with a serious expression, called us family members into the emergency room. "What did you give the patient? His brain is now not only filled with parasites, but his entire body is also infected with viruses." At this moment, they all fell silent. In the previous life, Zhang Yanyan was not like this. She confidently argued, "My son became like this because of the medicine from your hospital. If he had kept taking the medicine I prepared, he would have recovered long ago." The doctor thought she was being unreasonable but still patiently explained a lot of professional knowledge to them, but they simply couldn't understand and believed that I had thrown away Zhang Yanyan's unlicensed product, which had harmed Li Yaozu. I thought to myself, let's see how she tries to talk her way out of it this time. As I pulled the bottle from my bag, "Doctor, this is the medicine my sister-in-law made for my nephew. He's been taking this recently." When the doctor saw what was inside the bottle, his eyes widened in shock and his face was filled with anger. Where did this cockroach come from? They lowered their heads, not daring to answer the doctor's question. Why is Zhang Yanyan so quiet now? Before, her mouth was sharper than anyone else's. "No one wants to speak. Then I'll say it. My sister-in-law and my parents found it in the sewer and the trash can. My sister-in-law said it can not only cure all diseases but also ward off evil spirits and summon souls. Aren't you just being reckless? Wild cockroaches carry not only parasites but also over 50 types of bacteria and viruses. The cockroaches we use for medicine are all sterile and farm-raised." I had actually warned Zhang Yanyan about this before, but she simply wouldn't listen. She even argued back more confidently than I did. "You're talking nonsense. My sister-in-law said that as long as you boil them in hot water and soak them in alcohol to disinfect, it'll be fine, my self-righteous attitude made the doctor's face flush with anger, and he stopped arguing with me. He tried to calm himself down, typing on the computer for a long time before finally speaking. The bacteria from wild cockroaches cannot be eliminated this way. The patient developed a systemic bacterial infection because of them. The CT scan also clearly shows dense clusters of worms in the patient's brain. We will do everything we can to treat him. However, I regret to inform you that if the fever doesn't subside in the next few days, you should start preparing for the worst. Upon hearing the words, preparing for the worst, my mother and sister-in-law's legs gave way, and they collapsed to the ground. My father, who already had a heart condition, couldn't bear the shock of the doctor's words and fainted. My brother clenched his fists tightly, his eyes as sharp as a storm. In the previous life, Li Yaozu at least lasted for over a month before passing away. Now, it's almost like a direct death sentence. After he said my father to the hospital bed, he shouted at Zhang Yanyan in the ward, "Didn't you say our son didn't need to go to the hospital and would get better just by taking the medicine you made? Now why is the doctor telling me to prepare for Yaozu's funeral? Don't you know I can only have this one child in my lifetime? What am I supposed to do from now on?" A few years ago, my brother was injured while working on a construction site. He had 2 steel plates and 22 steel nails inserted into his leg, nearly leaving him disabled. What's worse, a crucial part of his lower body became necrotic and had to be surgically removed. At the time, he was spared from too much ridicule from relatives only because he had a son. If Li Yaozu had truly been left with nothing, the relatives' gossip would have drowned him. My brother is the type who would rather suffer than lose face, so from now on, Zhang Yanyan shouldn't expect an easy time. Zhang Yanyan, looking defiant, scratched my brother's face until it bled. "If you earned enough, would I have to save money by making my own medicine? Isn't it all for the sake of our family?" Although my brother's salary isn't high, he gives all of it to her, and my parents also give her money every month. Her monthly allowance, not including household expenses, amounts to 3,500 yuan. If she didn't spend recklessly, that would be enough. But she just loves buying luxury items to satisfy her vanity, even if it means taking out installment loans to do so. To stop my brother and sister-in-law from continuing to argue, my mother tried to shift the blame onto me. "Shanshan, why didn't you stop your sister-in-law back then? After all those years of schooling, it seems like you've learned nothing." "How could I have stopped her? I was afraid I'd end up losing my life if I tried. I almost forgot about them. They were accomplices after all." "Mom, when my sister-in-law asked you to go catch them, why didn't you stop her? You even went along with her." "Sister-in-law, it's not like our family is so poor that we can't afford medicine. Every piece of clothing and bag in your closet costs at least 5,000 yuan. If it weren't for their involvement, Zhang Yanyan alone wouldn't have been able to catch so many cockroaches. Every time I go back, she always shows off her newly bought luxury items to me, as if afraid I wouldn't know." After I finished speaking, my mother's face darkened, and Zhang Yanyan lowered her head guiltily, not daring to look at us. "What did you say? 5,000? I work myself to the bone outside and only earn 7,500 a month. Are her clothes made of gold?" "Impossible." Yan Yan said her clothes are all bought from Pinduoduo, and they cost no more than 200 at most. "She's talking about me, isn't she? Although I have over 100,000 saved up now, I've been frugal since childhood and can't bring myself to spend it." I posted the purchase orders and invoice screenshots I had collected earlier from Zhang Yanyan's bragging in the family group chat. A rough calculation shows she's spent over 100,000 on luxury goods in the past 2 years. Looking at the screenshot of the most recent purchase before Li Yaozu fell ill, she had just bought a pair of high heels costing over 10,000. I think she spent all her money, and only came up with the idea of making her own medicine because she was afraid my brother would find out. Zhang Yanyan tried to snatch my brother's and my mother's phones, but my brother pushed her out of the hospital room. After calculating the costs, they started cursing loudly in the hospital room. "Damn it, my most expensive clothes are only 300 yuan, but she's been living it up, buying plenty of clothes worth over 10,000. I always felt something was off. How could a 200 yuan coat be of such good quality? She even lied to me, saying it was secondhand." "Son, you should divorce her as soon as possible. During this time, she tricked your dad and me into making medicine from cockroaches and selling it. I'm afraid someone might get sick from it and come after our family. My mom isn't foolish after all. She still understands the severity of the situation." My brother dragged Zhang Yanyan in from outside the hospital room, threw her to the ground, and kicked her. she cried out in pain. My mom also started cursing at her viciously, slapping her face back and forth. This was the first time I had ever seen my brother lay a hand on her. In the past, whenever they argued, as long as she cried, my brother would back down. Even if she cried this time, my brother didn't soften his heart. Divorce, if I don't divorce you this time, I'll be letting myself down. Zhang Yanyan, who was still lying on the ground crying, was startled and got up. She tried to grab my brother's hand but was pushed back to the ground by him. You bastard, I won't agree to a divorce, then you can wait for me to sue you. It seems my brother has taken my mother's advice to heart and is determined to divorce her. Mom, Shanshan, say something. Quickly, talk some sense into Tianfu. Speaking up for her. Dream on. I turned my head to look out the window, and my mother sneered. My house can't accommodate a big shot like you. If anything happens to my grandson, you just wait. After returning, my mother made me sell all the luxury items she had bought. Most of the things she purchased didn't hold their value well, and I ended up selling them at a 40% discount. Not even 2 days later, Li Yaozu started convulsing all over again and, just like in the previous life, couldn't be saved. Before my parents and my brother could even settle the score with her, a large group of people came to confront Niu Yanyan. Most of those who bought her 3No products were uneducated elderly men and women in the community. I found a few older women, gave them some money, and had them spread the word that Li Yaozu had been admitted to the ICU at Xiangyang Hospital after taking Zhang Yanyan's medicine. Some of these people had been hospitalized for stomach pumping due to eating her 3No products, while others suffered from vomiting and diarrhea, and they had long suspected her. A group of people came to the hospital to cause a scene, demanding that she refund their money and cover their medical expenses. She was the type of person who would spend 1,000 when she only had 500, so how could she possibly have any money left? In the end, they had no choice but to call the police to handle the situation. She was sent to the police station. Without even seeing Li Yaozu one last time, her pleading gaze fell on us, but none of us were moved. Our family just watched coldly as she was taken away, saying nothing. Since most of those elderly people paid in cash, the online earnings were minimal, and no casualties occurred. There wasn't much evidence to prove that their issues were caused by her 3No products. The police could only give her a verbal warning, and she had to refund those people and pay a fine of 70,000 yuan within a week. When Zhang Yanyan wanted to use her luxury goods to repay the money, she realized that all the luxury items in her cabinet were already gone. Li Yaozu had already been cremated that same day, and my mother didn't even tell her where his grave was. She knelt down and begged us to let her see Li Yaozu, but my parents took out the divorce papers and asked her to sign them. The agreement required her to leave with nothing, so how could she possibly agree? Once divorced, she wouldn't even have a place to live. Her own family was even more biased towards sons. Back then, her parents insisted she marry an old man. Unwilling to comply, she ran away and met my brother. Her family looked down on my family for being poor and forbade her from marrying him, even urging her to abort the child in her womb. When my family went to her family to discuss the marriage, my mother used the child in her womb as a reason to reduce the bride price from 250,000 yuan to 100,000 yuan, causing a major conflict between the two families at the time. Her family warned her when she married that this path was her choice, and she shouldn't come crying to them if anything happened in the future. Not long after she married, she gave birth to Li Yaozu, and because of this, my parents accepted her, treating her even better than they treated me. She also understood that returning to her family would be like jumping into a tiger's den. Her family would be eager to profit from marrying her off again. Just when I thought she would be driven away, she ended up staying at home. My mother even paid 75,000 yuan for her and persuaded her to reconcile with my brother. I really don't understand how my mom's face can change so quickly. However, before I could even look into it, someone couldn't wait to tell me. Zhang Yanyan came to my rented apartment, arrogantly lying on the small sofa with her shoes on. Oh, Shanshan, you must really hate me. How could you do this to me? Are you disappointed that your brother and I didn't get divorced? I'm telling you, we can't possibly get a divorce, because I know your mother gave the remaining 150,000 yuan from your family's demolition compensation to your uncle. If your father finds out, he'll beat her to death. At that moment, my heart sank into an icy abyss. When I was just starting my internship after graduation, I was followed on my way home and dragged into an alley. Luckily, a passerby saw what was happening, or I might have been raped. I just wanted to borrow some money from my parents to buy a car for commuting, at least to feel safer, but they didn't take it seriously at all. They thought I had embarrassed them by reporting it to the police, and my mother even believed it was because I was dressed too provocatively, making people think I was a streetwalker, our short sleeves and bell-bottom jeans not worn enough. Seeing that I was angry, my mom even cried poor to me, saying all the family's money had been spent on my brother's wedding at the time. I thought it was true, so I borrowed money from friends to rent an apartment near the company. I scrimped and saved every month, feeling sorry for my parents' difficult life, and gave them some pocket money each month. Looking back now, I realize how foolish I was. I believed everything my mom said. She would rather give the family's money to my uncle for free than lend it to me. When I was little, my mom used most of my dad's monthly salary to support her own family, which forced my brother and me to eat cabbage for nearly a year. As a result, we were much thinner than other kids our age. At the time, my dad's income wasn't low. When he noticed something was off and found out about this, he almost beat my mom to death. It was only after she repeatedly promised not to give money to her family again that my dad didn't divorce her. I was trembling with anger all over, and Zhang Yanyan was quite satisfied with my reaction. Don't play so many tricks in the future, or I'll introduce you to my cousin. Do you think mom and dad would disagree? Her cousin's child is 5 years younger than me, and his family is very wealthy. He once beat his ex-wife so badly she ended up in the hospital, and it even made the news. My parents have always instilled in me the idea that the person you marry doesn't matter as long as they have money. My mom will definitely be swayed by the money and force me to agree. But why would she tell me about the leverage she has over my mom? If my parents really get divorced, there will be no one left in this family to protect her. That would be all harm and no benefit for her. I soon found out why she did this. It turns out she wants to have her brother's eldest son adopted into our family. My brother is also afraid of not having a child to support him in old age, so he eagerly brought the child back and renamed him Li Tianxi. She wanted to take my place in exposing my mother, so that my parents would divorce and she could get her revenge. But why do I feel that her closeness with the child is abnormal? When I returned home again, the cockroaches in the house had already been dealt with, and my brother seemed to have moved on from the pain of losing his child, holding Li Tianxi with a wide, joyful smile. When Li Yaozu was alive, he was always too busy to spend much time with him. My brother is now trying to make up for that regret through this child. Although Li Tianxi is young, he has a sweet mouth and knows how to please people, making the whole family smile. But I always felt something was off. When the child was with Zhang Yanyan, they would affectionately kiss each other, an action typically only seen between a biological mother and child. I kept an eye out and went to Zhang Yanyan's hometown village to inquire about it. Had only been there once before, and the people in their village didn't know me. They were wary of me and unwilling to engage with me. I bought a bag of eggs and a few pounds of meat for an elderly woman, and she pulled me into her home before telling me. It turns out that before Zhang Yanyan married into my family, she had already been married once, but she was too young at the time to get a marriage certificate. Later, her husband died in a car accident, and she had no choice but to return to her parents' home with her child. Not long after, her parents forced her to marry an old man, so she abandoned her child and ran away. The child has been raised by her uncle all these years, and she was just taken away by her a few days ago. Wow, she really hid it well, deceiving my family for so many years. But these rural aunties just love spreading rumors, so their words might not be entirely trustworthy. I collected saliva samples from Li Tianxi and Zhang Yanyan and went to get a paternity test done. True or false? We'll know in a week. How could I let Zhang Yanyan down during this time? She saw the remaining money from the demolition compensation in my mother's account book, which also included the bank transfer slip. She claimed it was a loan that still hasn't been repaid. Moreover, the loan was taken out just when they were about to get married. At that time, my father was working in another city and had entrusted everything to my mother. He didn't return until after they had already gotten married. In other words, my mother used the money saved from my brother's wedding and gave it to my uncle. My mother is really good at scheming. If Zhang Yanyan hadn't found out, I might never have known. During dinner, Zhang Yanyan and I started performing a duet, sister-in-law. Someone recently introduced me to a potential partner and asked how much dowry our family expects. How much did you ask for back then? My mom was eating her food when she suddenly choked and started coughing. My father looked serious at this moment. We've raised you for so long, and of course, we expect the same standard of bride price as when your sister-in-law got married. By now, my mother already had cold sweat on her forehead. In the middle, she even tried to interrupt and change the subject. Today, Teacher Tianxi said he's the smartest kid in the class. Let's buy some crabs to eat tomorrow. But we had long seen through all her little tricks. I only asked for 100,000, and with the additional gift for getting off the car, it was just 105,000. My dad couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up excitedly, saying, "Yen Yen, how can you talk nonsense? Didn't your mom say it was 250,000? My brother chimed in from the side, "Dad, it really was only that much." Yen Yen and I even went to the bank together to withdraw the money and delivered it to my mother-in-law. My dad pulled my mom up from her seat and shouted at her, "How dare you lie to me? What did you do with the rest of the money?" My mother was trembling all over, too afraid to speak. At that moment, Li Qianxi also took out the account book with the transfer slip tucked inside, just as we had taught him, and handed it to my father. "Grandpa, what do these words in this book say?" As soon as my father took the book, the transfer slip inside fell out. He almost fainted again when he picked it up and saw my uncle's name on the transfer slip. I quickly brought the fast-acting heart pills and stuffed them into his mouth. It took a full half-hour for my dad to recover. "You promised me before that you wouldn't give money to your family anymore. I'll give you one last chance. If you can't get back this 150,000 within 3 days, we'll get a divorce." My mother knelt on the ground, tears and snot streaming down her face as she hugged my dad's leg, begging him not to divorce her. My dad kicked her to the ground and went back into the room. My mother was crying so hard she could barely catch her breath. Outside the door, she slapped her own face and banged her head against the wall, trying to make a big scene to force my father to compromise. But this time, my father was determined to divorce my mother. Everyone knew the chance of her getting the money back was only 0.1%. After making a scene for a long time, my mother finally wore herself out and stopped. She told my brother and me to accompany her to our uncle's house the next day to demand the money and back her up. When we arrived at our uncle's house, they turned their backs on us, claiming the bills my mother brought were fake and trying to drive us away. My mother lay directly on the floor of their house, shouting that she wouldn't leave unless they gave her the money. My aunt was also a tough one. Seeing that my mother couldn't be driven away, she took a broom, went to the dry toilet, and smeared it with a lump of feces, long bristles coated in filth, ready to strike anyone who got in the way. My mother saw this and stumbled to her feet from the floor. The 3 of us were driven out by my aunt in such a humiliating manner. My mother couldn't run as fast as the 2 of us, and she ended up with some feces on her. My mother started shouting and cursing as soon as she sat outside the main gate, attracting many villagers to watch. She cursed for over an hour, but not a single person from their family came out. My brother then dialed the police. When the officers arrived, they advised us to take the matter to court. We hired a lawyer. Since we didn't have an IOU, the lawyer suggested that my mother try to get my uncle to admit to borrowing the money during a conversation, secretly recording it as evidence. But my uncle and aunt blocked us and even moved to another city. 3 days later, my dad brought out the divorce agreement, and under his pressure, my mom had no choice but to sign it. Zhang Yanyan was quite satisfied with this outcome. "Shanshan, you finally made a smart move for once." "Yes, if I kept being foolish any longer, my rebirth would have been in vain. Besides, my cleverness doesn't stop there. The paternity test results are out, and they are indeed biological mother and son." The private investigator I hired also found Zhang Yanyan's wedding photos and wedding video with her ex-husband, to let all the relatives know that he has adopted another child. My brother plans to invite many people to a banquet on Li Qianxi's birthday. My poor biological nephew hasn't even been gone for a month, his body not yet cold, and he can't wait to announce that he has a new son. "Shanshan, as the aunt, you must give a big red envelope of tens of thousands for Qianxi's birthday." How could she have the nerve to say that? I'd rather burn all my money than give it to her. When the host announced my brother's son, Li Qianxi, the large screen behind him showed Zhang Yanyan's wedding photo with her ex-husband. My brother was stunned, and Zhang Yanyan quickly grabbed the host's microphone. "That was taken with my ex-boyfriend. We broke up right after the photo was taken." Then the screen switched to her wedding video, where it was clearly visible that she was pregnant at the time, with a belly that looked about 7 months along. Let's see how she can try to talk her way out of this one. Before she could even think of an excuse, I presented the paternity test report. My family has become a complete laughingstock. I remember the Li family's daughter-in-law was said to be a first-time bride when she got married. Who would have thought she was not only already married but also had a child? His son just passed away not long ago, and he's already in a hurry to claim a son. He's just eager to be the fall guy. This Zhang Yanyan is practically the goddess of premarital pregnancy in ancient Greece. It's hilarious. His own son is dead, and he's still accepting his wife's child with someone else. I consider him a joke. My brother's face turned ashen, and he beat Zhang Yanyan up right in front of so many relatives and friends. When my dad was about to faint, I gave him some quick-acting heart pills, but this time they didn't help at all. My dad slid from the chair to the floor and fell unconscious. Upon arriving at the hospital, the doctor shook his head at us. The patient has suffered a shock, leading to acute cerebral hemorrhage with a significant amount of bleeding. Surgery is required immediately. Having signed 2 critical condition notices in just 2 months, my brother could no longer hold back. Tears streamed down his face as he lay in the hospital corridor, shouting and screaming uncontrollably. Unfortunately, my father experienced a second hemorrhage after the surgery and passed away not long after. My brother grew even more resentful toward Zhang Yanyan. Not only did he become physically aggressive toward her, but he also hurled the most vicious insults. "You're nothing but a worn-out shoe, using pregnancy to trick someone into marriage, and you dare bring this bastard into our home. It was you who killed my dad. If it weren't for you, he would still be fine." Zhang Yanyan also knew that there was no future with my brother, so she revealed her true colors. The two of them started fighting each other. "My son is not a bastard. Even if we divorce, you have to give me half of the house and the car." The two of them fought until a large group of security guards pulled them apart. At night, while she was sound asleep, my brother took out a knife and was about to stab her. She was awakened by the noise and, grabbing a fruit knife from the table, the two of them ended up stabbing each other. When my mom realized something was wrong and came to check, both of them were already lying in a pool of blood. When they were taken to the hospital, my brother had lost too much blood and needed a transfusion. Both my brother and I have a rare blood type, and the hospital had no supply. I was the only one who could save him, but when my mom called me, she discovered I had already blocked her number. Zhang Yanyan was not so lucky. The doctor just flipped her eyelids and said there was no need for resuscitation. My brother also passed away after struggling for a while because he didn't receive a timely blood transfusion. My mother couldn't bear the blow and went insane. At the hospital, she laughed and made a scene, even threatening to jump off the building, and was eventually sent to a mental institution. I went to the hospital to handle their funeral arrangements, then had them cremated. I took their ashes to the cliff from my previous life where they had caused my death and scattered them, letting their souls experience the pain of falling from a great height. I then returned the child to Zhang Yanyan's parents' home, as the child was innocent after all. When I told them that something had happened to Zhang Yanyan, not a single person wanted to see her, and they even said I could dispose of her ashes however I wished. Year later, I went to visit my mother. She looked as if she had aged 10 years, with her hair completely white. She was very excited to see me. "Shanshan, I dreamed that I pushed you off a cliff and caused you to fall to your death. Thankfully, it was just a dream." "No, it wasn't a dream. It was your whole family together that caused my death, and now, only you are still alive." My mother seemed to recall some painful memories, crouching down and clutching her head tightly. "I caused everyone's death. It's all my fault. I should die too." "Exactly. If you had made your daughter-in-law follow the doctor's instructions and take her medicine, your grandson wouldn't have died. If you hadn't given our family's money to your brother, my father wouldn't have been so angry that he had a brain hemorrhage. If you had kept an eye on your son and stopped him from acting impulsively, he wouldn't have ended up in a deadly fight with your daughter-in-law in the middle of the night. It's all your fault." I said many things to provoke her, and that very night, she secretly escaped from the psychiatric ward and jumped from the rooftop. I scattered her ashes from the same spot. A family should stay together, after all, and with the knowledge from my past life, I invested in many stocks and made a considerable amount of money. The house and car at home are now under my name, and I sold them because I thought they were tainted by their touch. I also funded many girls who couldn't afford to go to school and built a Hope Primary School in the countryside. I am very content with my current life and have started my own company. I occasionally travel abroad to broaden my horizons. I have become the youngest female entrepreneur in Jiang City and have been featured in many newspapers and news reports. The prerequisite for loving others is to love oneself. In this lifetime, I must live a life of brilliance. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.